How about now? Do you hear me now? So I restarted translation, so you might have a loose picture for a while. Well, great. Uh, so let's start from this not mandatory homework. I've got several variants of implemented. So let's get back to date validator class. So what I wanted from you, so in every homework I've got implemented one part of homework ideally, but with another part there were some problems. So the first thing that I wanted you to do is to declare array with all the months. So this part was quite simple. So here we declaring array of strings. Let's call it months names. So here is the syntax for this array. And let me show you some hints about this. So currently I'm just copy pasting this months one by another. January, February, March, and so on. So by clean code practices, usually we do not have very long statements that goes outside the screen. So here, maybe you see here's a vertical line. So this is like standard A4 page. So if I would print this text, this should not come over this vertical line. But looks like it's dependent on screen size, dependent on font size. So if you see that some statement is really big horizontally, it's better to split it in some parts. In case of array, after each comma, you can just press enter and look. Here's how we can simply split. It's not array splitting, it's just writing it in several lines. So you can do it after comma or before comma, but not somewhere in the middle of text. So I'll finish soon this copy pasting. October, two more here. And look, our user enters month's original value, but but user thinks that first month, if he enters one, so he expects to see here January. But we remember that when we put something into array, we start counting from 0. So actually, if user enters 1, we need January here. So what we should do? So one of the options was to put some fake value on first position, but that's not a really good option. So what solution we should use here? We can take months from this array with offset. So let's go here where we have here we have all validated input. So here we can say month's name is here we will take this month's name that earlier we have resolved here inside this big case with every month. So we can get it here from month names -1. So this was the most important moment. So month names, it's our recently defined array with all months. Variable months, it is user input. So he enters, for example, 3, and we will take March from here. Why? So actually March is with second index. So it is 0, 1, 2. So to get so if we need to get this month with offset -1, here we write in square brackets months -1. So I already mentioned that here we can write any integer expression. So we can write simple variable just like this. We can write some literal integer, or we can put here some expression months -1. I can even multiply this by 4 and then divide by 2 and then divide by 2 once more. So it's still an integer expression. And now what we can do, we can simply remove this previous code when we resolved each month's name inside this big case. So I'm removing this old code, and look. So if we count number of lines, so we will get so we have added here 2 lines of code, 3 lines of code, and removed 12. So so basically this so this code is a little bit more compact. But okay, first let's try to run it. Which date we have today? 26, month 6, year 2020. So yes, that still works. Let's debug this case. The same data. Okay, here we have array month names. Here we have 12 values inside with all month names. So we are going through first check, everything is okay here. Now so this switch currently is only about it's only about defining how maximum days in a month can we have. So here we go inside case 6. So here is 30 days in a month. So everything okay here. We do not need to resolve month name once again, because we will do it a little bit later. So break outside a switch. Here's additional validation about maximum days in a month. Great. So validation passed, and we now are here. So that's the most important part about month names here. So here's array. User entered 6, but June is actually on position 5 because we start counting from 0. So user entered 6, we need to get June. So months -1 is 5. And we will pull out value from array months names with by index 5, not 6. User entered 6, but we have here we wrote -1. So here we will pull from position 5. And now this month's name variable is now June. So everything is okay here. And we are printing this month's name on the screen. Well, everything is okay here. So this was a homework. It's clear here. So the most important part from here that I wanted to make accent here about expressions that we write inside these square brackets. Sometimes we need to maybe know the next value inside array. Maybe we need to so sometimes we need to calculate this value, and we need so we need to get some integer expression calculated that is inside array boundaries. So inside from 0 till array length. Okay, now let's get back to our array operations. Let's calculate something more. Last time we have calculated sum of array elements. Now I want to define which element in array is the biggest one. Do you have any idea how to resolve it? So I'm not talking about code, but just an algorithm. How to get the biggest value inside array? Any ideas? No ideas currently. Okay, let's let's think how we can do it by hands. So I'm looking on array. I see first number inside array. I look on second. So here I see that second is bigger than this previous. Okay, now I know that this one is the biggest inside array. Now I look on a 3. No, it's not bigger than 8. So I don't count this. 5. So it's still less than 8. So this is not the biggest. 2. It's even less than 5. So it's still less than 8. Oh, look, here's 12. Looks that this is bigger than 8. So let it be the biggest currently inside array. Oh, now array is finished. So yes, 12 was the biggest. So yes, we have to compare numbers. So currently I already explained how I do finding the biggest number in array by eyes, let's say. Now let's do it in a code. So actually, no, we don't need nested loop. So it's absolutely enough with one loop. So actually, we need to take some number and And even not any number, but first element from array. Okay, and let's think that it is the biggest number. Next, we have to compare this number with next number. If next number is bigger than we have took as a candidate, okay, let's make our candidate this current comparing element. So what I wanted to tell by this, let's create one more variable called max and take and let's give initial value as first array element. So first array element is array name with index element at index 0. And now we should start to comparing this value with all others in a row. So it's enough here with standard for loop. So we already know how to write it. Int e is equal to 0, less than array length e plus plus. Open and close curly braces. And now, so we do not need, so here e is equal to 0. We already took first element from array as a candidate for maximum number. So we do not need to compare it with itself. So let's take e is equal to 1. Okay, now let's take next element from array. So we can use this short form. We can store this into separate variable. So this element will contains current working value from array. So on a loop start, it will contain first value from array. So it will be 8. Now let's compare this value with previously taken as maximum. So if this element by its value is bigger than previously taken maximum, okay, we have found something bigger than we have decided previously was a maximum number. So we have found a bigger number. Now let's let it be the maximum. Let it be now the candidate. So what will happen next? We will go further in array until we meet number bigger than we have saved here as before. So if these next numbers will not be bigger than that we decided it is before, well, nothing will happen. We will just go to the next number until this new number will be bigger. Let me print this number. Okay, looks like this works. So please rewrite this example, and after that we will debug this and look step by step with what's happening inside. Okay, let's wait 1 minute more. Okay, let's debug this. So first we are creating variable max where we'll store our next candidate of maximum number. So we give initial value of first array element. Why we are not assuming that it will be 0? We cannot use 0 here because there may be some elements. Uh, so all elements inside array might be positive. So all of them will be no. So all of them may be negative, and taking candidate as 0 will get element that's not inside array. So anyway, if we are trying to get maximum number of array or minimal number, we are initially taking the first array element. Okay, now this variable stores number 4. It's the first array element. What we are doing here next? So we are starting our loop with e is equal to 1 because we do not need compare first array element with first array element. So it's quite useless. So we are starting here from 1, and this variable element now stores next array element. So this is 8. What we see here, we need to find the maximum element inside array. So we're comparing this with the sign more, and 8 is bigger number than 4. So yes, now we assume that maximal, so the biggest number inside array is 8. So we are assuming this currently. So we do not know nothing about other elements of array. But currently we have checked only 2 numbers, and yes, this new number is bigger than previously assumed. So we will anyway we'll go through all array and we'll check the next number. So currently now max is equal to 8, and now we are getting next element from array. So e has increased by 1. Next, so r e is now next element from array, so it is -3. So here it is, -3. This element value is not bigger than we previously assumed that as maximal. So -3 is not bigger than 8. So what happens? We are doing nothing. So debug also returns here, but actually it doesn't go inside this condition. So nothing to do. We're thinking next element, it's 5. 5 not bigger than 8, so again we're doing nothing here. So this condition doesn't give us true. Next element 2. Still that's not bigger than 8, so we're skipping this if. And again, so last element of array 12. Wow, that looks bigger than 8. So what happens here? We assume that this maximum value is now this element. So we have found something bigger than we previously assumed that maximum. So we have found a new candidate. Now this variable stores value of 12, but our array has finished, and after this array we have maximal value stored inside variable here, and so it is visible here, and we are just printing this here. So look, here it is. Maximal is equal to 12. So is this example understood? So if you have this max printed more than once, most probably you have this print ln inside for loop. Please be very careful here. So okay, let's look here. We need to have so how to see where loop is finished and where it is started. So that's also needed for conditionals. So if I put cursor here, you see this finishing curly brace is highlighted together with starting curly brace. So these curly braces are shows the code inside this if condition. So here it starts and here it's finish. And the same for loop. So so for example, here I have I don't know 100 lines of code. So I need to understand where the for loop is finished. So I put cursor to the starting curly brace, and IDEA now highlights the finishing curly brace. So this print line statement should be should be after this for loop. Otherwise, this variable will be printed so much times how much times these loop iterations are executed. So our array has 6 elements, but we start counting from 1. So if you have this inside, this will be printed 5 times. But we can decide the maximal element only when we have finished our loop. So we can decide it only when all iterations are finished. So only after loop. Well, great. So this is common mistake, but now I have shown how to avoid it. So please be careful with these curly braces. So IDEA shows you where loop is started and where it's finished. So usually when we need to find some elements from array, when we need to calculate maximal minimal number, so it always happens. So we can use this value only after for loop is finished. Now let's have a little practical assignment. So I want you to find the minimal number inside of array. So looks very similar to this one. And I give you how much? 5? Okay, till 19:10. 10 minutes after 7. So 8 minutes. Okay? Well, okay, so I'll show you also how have done this. So I'm just copy pasting from previous. So let's create variable min that stands for minimal. And so the only thing that I should change here. So use this minimal here inside this loop code. So the only thing I have to change here is this sign. So if I need to get minimal elements in array, I should take consider the next element from array as minimal only if it is less than previously taken as minimal. So here I change everything to min. Running this, well, and looks, this works. So yes, actually we have found the minimal element inside array. So now let's take next exercise. So one common operation with arrays or collections, we need to give an answer. Does array or any other collection contains some element or not? For example, please answer me on a question. Does this array contains value 5? Yes. So, but how have you achieved this answer? So actually, you looked on array and checked this is equal to 5. No. This is let's take next. This is equal to 5. No. Let's take next. This is equal to 5. Still no. Next. Oh, this equals to 5. Yes. Great. So now I consider that this collection contains some element with value 5. So maybe there are others 5s inside array. So values inside array might not be unique here. So we can have a lot of 5s here. But we need to tell just at least one. So now let's but if this so usually when somebody asks uh, some collection, does it contains element, or give me uh, an index of element inside collection. So if value is persisted inside array, so we should answer with index of that element. So with index, in our case, it will be 3. If value is not persisted here inside array, we need to return value of -1. Why -1? Because we cannot have array elements at index -1. So that's illegal value, but it's so it is commonly used as non-existing value. So if array does not contain value, we cannot return index of that element, so we are returning -1. Now let's so it is clear with algorithm itself. Well, so let's write it. So anyway, we will need to create, we will need to check every element inside collection, so we will need for loop. But we need to have some, again, we will need to have some variable outside a loop where we will store our answer. So int, if we need to return index of element of array, so indexes are always integer numbers. So int index of something, so index of number, let it be -1. So from the start, we consider that element is not persisted inside array. So we cannot, so we don't know it is persisted or no. If we will find this element or in array, we will update this number with actual index. If not, if we will go through all elements inside array and we will not find this value, okay, it will still be -1. So it will it means that this collection, this array doesn't contain element. So again, let's write int e is equal to 0. So here we start with 0 because we need to check also first element inside array. E is less than array length e plus plus. And so what we need, so for this example, we are checking array with 5. So what I'm doing here, if so we are getting next element from array. So if this element is equal to 5, now so we have already found this element inside array. So here we got this still success, and now we are updating this index of number with current index. So it will be equal to e. So e, this is iterator, and this is in the same time array index of current array element. So this is iterator, so this is number of index that we are getting arrays elements from array. So here we have upgraded this value with e, and now let's print it. Index of number 5, so we have searched 5. And look, here we got result 3. Let's look here, 0, 1, 2, 3. So yes, that's look correct. So please rewrite this example, and after that we will look with debugger how that works step by step. Well, okay, let's wait one more minute. Okay, launching debug. So here we defining this variable where we will store index of first found element. So we assume from the start that it is -1 because if we will not match this element inside, so this value will persist. This value will not be updated and will persist answer for case when no such values found. But if we will found, we will just upgrade this value. So let's take first element from array. So that's 4. Look, here the first element from array. Here we are comparing this to searchable value. In our case, that's just 5. So we are comparing this by two equality signs. Does they match or not? So looks like not, and debug goes to the next loop. Take next element 8. So that's still not 5. Taking next, -3 is still not 5. Going further, well, here we got 5. So this comparison will return us true. And here we will upgrade this value. Index of number so our answer is stored inside e variable because this is our index. So e stands here both for iterator and both for index. So we are taking values from array by that index. So this will be our answer. We have upgraded this value. Now this contains the last found index of searched value. In our case, that it is 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So next we will check with 2 and 12. So they are still not 5. And here now this variable contains value with index of number, index of searched number. So it contains right value now. And looks like everything is okay here. Do you see here some optimizations that we can do here? Mm, R by index 5 will give us this value. So we needed to answer on an equation. Do we have at least one element with value 5 inside array? So yes, we have found one, and yes, I see right answers about. So after we find this first match, we do not have to check all other elements. So even if we have more fives inside loop, uh, so they are not already necessary because we have found at least one. So yes, here we can put break because we have found the first match and we do not need to check all other elements. Let's launch this code once more time. So this still finds this value. Okay, now so we have written here a lot of examples. Okay, one more example. So not really example, but practical assignment for you. So we are still working with same array. So please write a code that counts how much positive values do we have inside array and how much uh, negative values we have in array. And okay, let's consider 0 as okay. Let's consider 0 to positive value. So checking this array, after checking this array, I want to see on the screen that this contains 5 positive values and 1 negative value. So is this assignment clear what we need to do? Well, okay, so you can continue in this file. So I give you time till 1945, so it will be 19 minutes. So I will not stop translation. I will just stop voice recording here. So if you have questions, you can write me directly. Uh, so time till 1945. So we have two options here. I can give you extra time to perform this exercise, so I can give hints for this, or I can show you solution now. Okay, so uh, I'll give extra time till 8. So the so what we have to okay, let's write a code to count solution or hints. Currently we have 2 versus 2. Okay, one more answer will be resulting. Well, now 3 versus 3. 4 versus 4. Well, okay, hints. So counting how much elements inside collection fits some tests, some predicates, let's call it so. Uh, it's quite common. It's quite common job in programming. So what we actually need to have here uh, in previous example, we need to understand the exact index of element founding. But now we need to count how much elements fits some predicate. So this is more about something like this. So in programming, these variables that are used to count how much something are called counters. So that's usual integer or any other numeric value variables that holds a number of how much we have inside our collection. So in our example, we need to count how much positive values and how much negative values we have in a given array. So int positives, int negatives. So here inside first uh, inside positives variable, I will count how much positive values, including 0, we have inside array and how much negatives. So it's not so we do not need to store inside these variables element values. So we are not counting sum of elements. So we are counting only we're taking next element from array and comparing this to it and understanding this is negative or it is it just value positive or negative. If it is positive, we're increasing this variable. If it is negative, we're increasing this variable. Uh, so it is now more clear. So we do not need to store indexes of elements. We do not need to find an element. We do not need to store its and somehow count values. So we just need to know is it value positive or negative. And by this comparison result, we're increasing one variable or another. Okay, so for now, I'll give you extra time till 8 o'clock, and then I'll show you solution. Well, okay, now I will show solution. So here we will have not another for loop. So actually we need to take uh, every element from array and check it is uh, less than 0. So in that way, in that case, we are increasing this value, this variable negatives. Otherwise, we increase variable positives. Or we can check vice versa. It is bigger than 0, and so on. So if, let's do it in that way. If element is more or equal to 0, then we are increasing positives variable. So here are, so we can do it in that way, in a long form, or we can do it in a short form. So this and this, so this is just a short syntax for this. So they are equal by meaning. Else, else we're increasing negatives. So if element is not bigger or equal to 0, so it means that it is negative. So in that case we write else and increasing variable negatives. And well, that's actually all. Let's print them. So let's run and look what we have here. Positives 5, negatives 1. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives and 1 negative. So it is so please rewrite this code if already not done, and after we will go with debug through this code and check how it works step by step. So everybody now have something like this inside idea. So okay, now let's debug this. So first, just two variables for counters. So this is commonly used pattern, let's say pattern called counter. So this variable e is called iterator because it counts how much loops we were doing. These variables, they are in our case they are called counters. So they hold a count uh, of positive predicates. So we're testing each collection element on some predicate. For example, is it bigger than 0, or is it less than 0, or anything else? Is it prime number or not, and so on and so on. So currently here we have two counters. And look, now we take next element from array. We already know how to do it, and simply checking, is it bigger than 0? We are increasing counter of positives. Okay, so we have previously checked this first element for it was bigger than 0, and we increased variable positives. We're taking next, so now we're checking next element from array with a value 8. And it's still bigger than 0, we're increasing positives. Taking next element from array, it is has a value -3, so it is not bigger on or equal than 0. So now we are increasing negatives. Look, now we have 2 versus 1. Next value 5, that's positive. Next value 2, that's also positive. Next value 12, that's also positive. And so here our loop is finished, and we are just printing these variables. So this is pattern called counter, when we using variable to count some matching elements in array. So it is now clear with this example. So now let's have a break till 2020, so it's 13 minutes. And please write what was the hardest part in this exercise. So I'll now stop streaming, so I will bring you a new link after break. But now, yes, please write what was the biggest difficulties with this practical assignment.